Welcome to Unbox Your World, the podcast where philosophy meets tech. In each episode, we're connecting the dots between philosophy, technology, society, science, and progressive thought. And together with brilliant minds across the world who dare to challenge the way we think and live in today's society, we are unboxing our minds one episode at a time. I am Maria Salting. I am a tech professional during the day and a philosopher at night. So let's get started. Let's unbox ourselves. Welcome back to the show. In today's episode, we have the founder and CEO of Newsvoice on the show, Viktor Lidholt. And today we will discuss the future of journalism. And this is a topic that's actually really dear to my heart. And the reason is because I had this amazing teacher in high school who was really great and passionate about helping us to become critical thinking and conscious decision-making adults later on in life. And so I have been thinking that what we really need in these times is a magazine that we know is unbiased and fact-checked. And that's why I got really excited to hear that Newsvoice is actually on a mission to fix the news and to become that magazine that is fact-checked and unbiased. And so today, we will discuss the future of journalism together with Viktor Lidholt, and you'll also learn about how you can compact the filter bubbles, how AI will impact the future of journalism, with machines now actually are able to produce texts, and what we can do to fix the news to get more unbiased and fact-checked news. So let's get to it. I look forward to interviewing him today. Hello, Viktor Lidholt, CEO at Newsvoice.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks.
Please tell us a bit about your story and what Newsvoice does. So you are on a mission to fix the news. What's, in your opinion, what's broken, and how are you planning on solving that?
So there are really many problems around the news today. If you look to the US, there's very few companies that control most of the market. You have 5 or 6 corporations that own more than 90% of the complete news market. Mm. And these are also corporations that have interest there, like sponsoring politicians, they give you a very one-sided view of the world. So what we want to do is basically show you more perspectives on each news story, make the news as unbiased as possible, and use our community to build better news together.
And how do you make the news unbiased?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we do, we link to very many different sources for each news story, and we utilize our readers to write summaries for the news story. So we don't actually write the whole stories ourselves, but we link to a multitude of sources for every story, and try to keep the actual summaries to just the facts, and avoid, we will never say that Trump is stupid, but we can say, for instance, that someone said that Trump was stupid. So we basically state the facts of the stories and nothing more, and then you can form your own opinion by, reading the different sources for the story.
And how did you come up with the idea? What was your story to end up? Okay, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, so I used to live in the US. I lived in San Francisco for 4 years, and being a Swede in the US, I think you have a very different perspective, like a little bit of an outside perspective on how the news works. I wouldn't say that it's great in Sweden, but it's much worse in the US. And a lot of people are really upset about how the news is presented and how biased the news feels. You get, depending on where you get your news, you get like complete different pictures of what's going on. I'm sure it's always been like that, but maybe it's more visible now with social media. And yeah, as I've always been a news junkie, so I started thinking about how we could do this better. So basically, I quit my job at Google and I followed my dreams to start Newsvoice and trying to fix the news market. So that's what I've been doing since.
And you seem to be doing quite well. How many readers do you have now?
So we passed 100,000 readers, which is obviously a great milestone, but we're really on a mission to build the world's largest news platform. That's really what we want to do.
It's exciting.
Yeah. So when it comes to news, it's easy to think that it's just like a way to keep up to date about what's happening in the world. But the news really controls almost every aspect of our lives. The things we read, they affect which politicians we vote for. It's what we consume, even how we think. So if we can make the news better, we can literally make the world better. I mean, that's the grand vision of Newsvoice.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting with the core, right? And that's something that really resonates with what I'm thinking as well. So and you have a lot of plans going forward, right, on how you want to continue to improve this. Like, this is just the start, right?
Yeah, it's just a start, but we've been doing really well so far, which is very exciting, and see how many people who actually resonate with what we're trying to do. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we can do better. Part of the vision is also to make the news much more accessible in a way, so that you can get a quick summary of a news story. You can dig in. Today you can read different perspectives on every story and get an unbiased summary. But we want to pair everything that's related to a news story, so you can put it in the same place. It can be fact checks, it can be comments, it can be opinion pieces, statistics. Say you read about the murder in the city where you live. It would be really interesting to also pair that with statistics for what's the murder rate over the past 20 years. Is this something that I should be worried about, or is it just an instance that is unfortunate, but it's not like a large-scale problem? So I think there's so much facts and things we could pair with news stories. Timelines, if you read about, I don't know how many times I've read the news story in the newspaper, and it's like a follow-up to a story last week, which I didn't read. And then it's really hard to know what that story is about. So it would be really nice to make timelines of the stories. I mean, it could be more than a week, obviously. It can be things that evolve over years, where you can actually get a summary of what happened in this, conflict across the world, or whatever it is you're reading about.
Cool. And speaking of facts, your colleague Malin, she mentioned before that she said that she's noticed that people start saying that I read this in simply being able to state the facts, as if we're nowadays assuming that we cannot trust the sources. So how do you is it something that you notice as well, and how do you see this impact society today, and how can we solve it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know the statistics for Sweden where we are, but if you look to the US, a majority of Americans do not trust the news today. So it's a real issue, and really what we want to do is bring back the trust to news and make the news more trustworthy, so you know that what you read is actually things that happened, and it's not just an opinion piece.
So you're saying so maybe that has a correlation then with a number of people, or the increase of fake news. People cannot trust if they don't trust the media source, then
I don't have any statistics to back this up, but I'm not so sure that that there is an increase in fake news.
Mm.
I think there's obviously there like complete fake news sites, so that's one thing. But often when you speak about fake news, could be also very biased news. So it's a story where things have been taking, like everything in that story may be true, but if you just pick certain facts from a story, you can make it look like something else that fits your agenda. So I guess that's a borderline case, if you will call it fake news or not. But that's definitely something that's very common in mainstream media. If you go to even the larger media companies today.
And then, so how do you solve this? How do you bring back the trust to facts?
So I mean, the whole idea with what we are trying to do is let people, like anyone, can correct our news stories. So we let our readers help us write summaries, and then if they find things that are not accurate, they can correct it, and it gets fixed really fast. So if you can provide sources for why the story is misrepresented, you can fix it. So it's a bit like Wikipedia, right? If you compare an old dictionary with or an old encyclopedia with Wikipedia, you can, Wikipedia is not always perfect, but it's much more perfect than the old encyclopedia. So I think the more people that get involved and the more people that try to fix the things that are not correct, the better it will be.
I guess in a way that you earn the trust in a way, I guess. Because I remember when I went to school and when I was a kid, like Wikipedia was not an okay source and when you wrote essays, but now it actually is.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of maybe the same, just continuously over time be accurate.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, we take great pride in being as accurate as we can, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's also something that as we continue to grow, will get better and better.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I mean, there's a scale, but I'd say we are already better than almost every other news outlet. But there's still room for improvement, obviously, and the bigger the community, the better the quality will be on the news.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of like a movement almost, right?
Yeah.
So the fact is obviously an important cornerstone of journalism, and as we talked about, also in society. And then another aspect of journalism is, which has become really evident lately, is the filter bubbles. And I think that this is my reflections, but just to elaborate for the listeners, I think that to a certain extent, and happening more and more at exponential speed, is that the algorithms have taken over the role of the editor today. So instead of having an editor at the magazine that is consciously picking out news to try at least to represent the society and different perspectives, and every now and then try to bring in news that they maybe wouldn't write about otherwise. Now we more and more have algorithms that choose what news we should read based on what they think we want to read and click on. So in a way, in a way, the algorithms then have taken over the role of the editor. At least that's the way I see it. When it comes to the technical platforms, obviously not the print and magazine. But how do you see this impact the role of the editor of the future? Where do you think that we're heading, and do we have do you think we'll see more other technology solutions to solve this? I've been thinking about maybe being a filter bubble blocker, or I don't know.
Right.
But what's your thoughts?
I mean, that's one of the issues we're also trying to solve with Newsvoice, by always providing different perspectives. So we'll never provide a single source for a story, but we have at least 3 sources from different viewpoints on the same story. So that's really a safeguard against both fake news in a way, because the most biased news or fake news you will find on a single side of the political spectrum. But when it comes to algorithms, everything you do on a computer is an algorithm. The problem is that if you look to social media and I'm sure to some extent when it comes to news, online news sites in other forms, it's how you optimize these algorithms and what you optimize for. So if you go to Facebook or Twitter, it's one thing, like measuring how much what you're clicking at, but the real optimization is for profit. How do we which content should we show to make the most profit? That's really what it boils down to, and the number of clicks and views is a part of that. It's probably easier to measure than actual what people pay, or which ads to show. So it's probably mostly optimized for how long time you spend on there, and how much money they make from you. But I think it would be more important maybe for humanity as such to try to focus on other values, like what is actually important to read, or what do we need to know.
Exactly.
How should we not destroy our environment? How can we find a better persons to run our countries?
Yeah, because that's really what the editor does, right? Like it kind of it brings out stories that maybe you wouldn't read about otherwise. So one thing is the facts and getting their perspectives on a story, but then it's also getting exposed to other stories that maybe you wouldn't even read about. I think that is more and more, right? Like every human is, regardless of technology, living in their own bubble anyways, but maybe the technology is enhancing those bubbles of what the information that we're consuming are. So are you following what I'm so I think it's interesting, like that is a harder one to solve, isn't it?
So the question is really, who do we trust to select the things that we read about? Do we trust like a journalist? It's probably not a single person if you go to a news site, right? It's really a big corporation of some sort. So what we do at Newsvoice is basically using our whole community to make the decisions by upvoting stories that they find important. But to prevent like the filter bubble effect, we will always show the different perspectives on every story as well. And we're using some other measures to try to counteract that effect. So like if you have a majority of people voting for some type of news stories, maybe we can figure out, be a little bit smarter to lift stories that are from different perspectives.
That's interesting. So you're really getting the community then to vote for stories that they find important. And then I guess like that will be like you will become smarter and smarter over time to optimize for that. So that's really interesting.
So it's really up to readers to decide what the content should look like, and I think there's a risk in this, because you can get like anything from foreign actors to trolls or internet activists that will try to manipulate this. So we're obviously taking that very, very seriously. We have 100,000 readers today, but there's already found people trying to do this that we have to mitigate and get around, and so even though we are not that big of a news actor yet, it's already people trying to trick our algorithms, which is, I guess, flattering in a way, but also highlights the issue, and we have a lot of work to do there to keep the integrity of the system. And at the same time, I think it's super important to have a transparency in how the news is selected and how it's edited. So that's something that we're really working hard on, and something that none of the other internet giants do. If you look to Facebook or Twitter, they will like remove things, they will hide things, you don't know why or by whom or what was hidden. It's just like, probably, I don't know, it's very hard to know that they do a good job, and for most part it seems like they may not be doing a good job.
But it's super interesting and super important to start innovating around this. I mean, like this is it's really, and I mean, I assume that you have a very engaged community with the fact that your community is part of helping to choose the news and write the news and
So we actually have many hundreds of people helping us write the news, which is pretty cool. It's so we're a small company. We are employing today, it's 9 people total, but we also have hundreds of people helping us out for just because they love what we're doing and want to build something that's better.
I mean, that's really a sign that you're onto something, right? Like it's the
I like.
It's like you're putting it's like a domino brick or whatever you call it, like the Greta Thunberg effect, and just like just someone doing something and people follow.
Yeah,
because it's needed.
Yeah, I mean, we really need this, and I think we need it pretty fast. To be honest,
I would agree on that. So speaking of the community, and then actually, so about like how the stories are submitted, and I noticed now recently with the riots in the Capitolium, in the Capitol, I mean, and I noticed that Fox News and CNN they use different wordings. So, for example, CNN, at least immediately before any violence had happened, because I read both of them at the same time when it happened. So CNN, they reported it as a riot, where Fox used wording such as protesters. So what power of the words what is the power of the words that you use in news, and how do you review it at scale when submitted to Newsvoice?
I mean, obviously, this is if you look to CNN versus Fox, they have slightly different agendas when it comes to what they want to show, and in a sense, they are in the US. They're reasonably transparent with, everyone knows Fox is right wing, and everyone knows that CNN is left wing. So I guess in that sense, no surprises there. But I think that really highlights how like the polarization, both in the media and by extension, like how polarized America and the world is becoming. And I think the social media has a lot to do with this, and the filter bubbles, because it really highlights, you see much more of the things that you like yourself and much less of things that you may disagree with. So it makes it really hard to understand where the other side is coming from.
Yeah.
If you only read CNN, for instance, it's very, very hard to understand how Donald Trump could get elected, right? But if you just read Fox News, it's incomprehensible of how anyone would vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So maybe I think if people can read a little bit more outside of their own bubble, that would build a much greater understanding of, what's actually going on in the world. But also, if you probably read left-leaning media because you are leaning left yourself. And if you really want to transform society, you need to get like others on your side, right? You need to understand how they're thinking and why. So when you talk to them, you can actually, have a constructive conversation. No one will change the view if you just like call them words.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's almost like conflict resolution, right? Between just two people. Like, it's going to be hard to resolve it unless before you've actually taken the effort to understand the other person. And so that's a good way to approach news as well.
I like to think
we're all human beings, right? But cool. So another technological event this year was the launch of OpenAI's new GPT-3 language model, which was quite a lot about that on Twitter, where people tried to do a lot of different cool things. But for example, now we can tell the machine to write a funky poem about Elon Musk's Twitter behavior, and out comes a funky poem about Elon Musk. And it can also write an answer on an essay. So quite advanced things. So how do you see this now with AI actually starting to be able to produce human-like texts? How do you see this impacting a day-to-day job of a journalist?
I think it can probably become a huge aid in writing, and I have a hard time seeing it replacing, human journalists. I think, or at least I think that that's not what we want to do. But it's definitely an interesting development, and we for sure use a lot of AI at Newsvoice as well to assist everyone, who helps us write news summaries, and we scan lots of different news outlets and use text analysis and AI to categorize the content and build a huge database of news. So we automated those processes, but I think it's important to have humans having the final say in what's actually written. That's definitely the way to go, in my opinion. I think we are in for like society as a whole. There's a pretty big change that will be coming over the next couple of years, probably next 5-10 years. We'll see huge changes. We already have Google's Waymo company who make self-driving cars. They're running on public roads without a driver, and they've done so for a couple of years now. So there's, I think, I heard a figure, it's 15% of the world's population is are working with driving vehicles of different kinds. So those can pretty easily probably be replaced with AI and many other jobs. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges for our society, how to tackle that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for journalists it will become an aid, as you say, more on the basic work, maybe when it comes to text generation, and then more of the creative, bringing the human perspective, where they will put more emphasis on, maybe.
Yeah, I definitely hope so.
Yeah.
It feels like a pretty dystopian world where all our news is generated by computers. without like human oversight.
Yeah. I mean, with that's a side step, right? But I assume that the where AI is going to have the hardest, right, is to do the creative work, and the human perspective, in general across all industries, I would assume. So I think that we'll never lose that.
Let's hope so. But yeah, I also think like AI has a long way to go. It's today, I mean, we can use AI to drive cars and write maybe some funky texts. But on the other hand, I mean, the companies that are furthest along are probably companies like Apple and Google, and try to have a smart conversation with your phone. It's not quite working yet. And it feels like we have quite a way to go there. But I'm sure we eventually will get there. But I think it'll take some time.
Yeah, but it's I like that you believe that it will be that you think it will be a huge aid for journalists. I think that's probably the most the best going forward. Just that they can focus more on deep dives and things like that.
Right.
That's even more valuable.
That's really what we want to do, build like a database of news and news-related content. So you could, in the future, you read about the protests or riots or whatever you decide to call them, and maybe related to that story, you can find every single video clip that's, from there. You can use it to make research. You can find all the news stories that cover it from different angles. You can find, people's accounts that they've written or recorded, or so much data that we can collect there and make available to everyone to help them form better opinions and basically make better news.
Yeah, that's yeah, that sounds good. But so lastly, just some future gazing, just in general, where do you see? I mean, we're in an interesting shift right now with technology and journalism. So how do you imagine the future of journalism in general? What do you think it will look like? Will you see a lot of competitors like Newsvoice, or?
Yeah, so there's no one who really does what we're doing. There are a lot of things happening in the news space overall, but it's mostly focused on algorithms or enhancing the filter bubbles. So I think what we're doing is rather refreshing in that sense, that we try to build something that's more geared to providing quality news with with the mission of making it as unbiased as it possibly can. We talked a little bit about AI before. I think maybe the role AI will play more in news rather than in the production of news, maybe in how we interact with the news. So perhaps it could be, like you would talk to Siri, ask for the news, you can dig into stories, ask for more information about different topics, or and maybe your phone or whatever device. I mean, 10 years ago, there were hardly any apps. Today, everything is apps. 10 years from now, things will look very different. We may not have phones in our hands anymore. Who knows? But I think maybe the interaction will change, that we will, be more interactive, probably with most of the content that we access when it comes to actual information. So we may be able to ask deeper questions, and the AI can dig it up in the database and give us answers on the spot.
That's interesting. Maybe even adapt it to your learning style. So if you prefer conversation, reading, lecture, listening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting things going forward for sure, and I'm happy to see that you're on top of trying to fix the news, basically.
Yeah, we're doing everything we can to make that happen. That's for sure.
Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to share with the listeners before any teasers or anything? Just check out website.
Yeah. So we are actually about to release a completely revamped app of Newsvoice.com in just a couple of days. So that will be. I'm pretty excited about it. It's really rewritten everything from the ground up to make it much smoother experience to use, and actually looks really exciting. So that's something I'm excited about to get out to all of our readers and hopefully future readers as well.
Great. So then everyone should go to Apple Store, I guess, or maybe Android as well.
Google Play, App Store.
Newsvoice.
Yes, do it.
Then I will let you get back to launching that new app. But thank you so much for joining the conversation today. It's been great to having you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
That's it for today. Thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. And if you want to read up more about the guest, then you can go to the show notes to get all of the links. And also, if you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter to never miss the latest episode. Thank you for today. See you in the next episode.